Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us. About Us. The Business of Creating was co-founded by writer-producer Jennifer Mangan and entertainment marketing executive Michael Fisk. The Business of Creating is an ongoing live interactive panel series and Q&A with seasoned entertainment executives. Our purpose is to educate and to empower professionals who already possess foundational knowledge by providing up-to-the-minute useful information and practical action steps in order to create, finance, market, sell, and distribute top-quality projects. We've already produced and moderated over 30 panels, and here's a sampling of previous ones, including creating rippos, sizzles, and other marketing materials, creating digital marketing campaigns, producing your project, distribution for indie projects, unit photography, animation, financing your project 1 and 2, and developing your project strategies to implement during COVID. To watch some of these panels and to find out more, follow us on socials. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course our website, businessofcreating.org. And thank you to our sponsors, Second Home, the Writers Guild Foundation, and Final Draft. Business of Creating is an all-volunteer nonprofit organization. We rely on sponsors to help cover our costs and keep events free for everyone who wishes to attend. If you can sponsor or know somebody who can, please reach out to us either through socials or at our website, businessofcreating.org, or look us up directly on Venmo at Business of Creating.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to start right now with the panelists, and what I know I mentioned my friend and colleague Jennifer, and so she will be moderating. She's right over there, and she's a writer and producer, and she owns her independent production company, Beautiful Day Productions, which focuses on material that uplifts and empowers women through comedy and sci-fi and fantasy. So she actually graduated from UCLA, which actually that's how we met. Actually, I was lecturing in one of the classes from one of our professors, right? And so she graduated with distinction at UCLA Business and Management, and she also co-founded and produced Women in Film Mini Upfronts, and which promotes female content creators via red carpet industry screenings of trailers, sizzles for unproduced projects. So when she recognized this need, for creatives to gain practical advice and guidance from seasoned entertainment execs in order to market and sell their projects. And so Jennifer actually co-founded, produced, and moderates the panel series Business of Creating. And currently she is working on the sci-fi fantasy TV show Animal Magnetism, which is in development. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight, and thank you, Michael, for making me sound good. I'm going to have to bring him with me everywhere, am I right? All right, so everybody, thank you so much. We are looking at film festivals tonight. Indeed, we are going to be having several resources, and I see people looking at the slides. Yes, please, look at the presentation deck. Michael did a fabulous job, as did everybody. And you are, yes, welcome to take notes, take some screenshots of things. Let's be successful. There we go. Educate, empower, succeed. Yes, please. Having said that, holy cow, we have got a lineup tonight that is just going to, make your mouth water. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, let's welcome Rebekah Louisa Smith. Indeed, the film festival doctor in the house, everybody. Rebekah is committed to nurturing filmmakers in order to help them secure film festival screenings, win awards, and a positive recognition within the film industry. Currently, her company has won more than 1,900 awards. You heard that right. Yeah, 1,900 awards for their clients, and her team has supported nearly 850 creatives across the world, enlightening and inspiring their journey towards achieving their goals and following their filmmaking dreams. The Film Festival's Doctor's mission is to help filmmakers get their films seen in festivals around the world so they can gain visibility, get their films sold, win awards, and create more opportunities for their careers. Everybody, round of applause for Rebekah! Oh my God, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Up next, it's the Power Women moment right now. We got ladies first coming up. Melissa Kazuko DuPont, come on down. Melissa is an independent film producer with Summer and Company and a marketing consultant in TV and film. Melissa was most recently at Apple TV Plus, Hulu, as well as the Vice President of International Marketing for Sony Pictures. Okay, I think she knows what she's talking about. She's like, nah, not at all. She was only responsible for the international marketing campaign strategies for over 40 films in 60 plus different markets internationally. Key titles include Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Baby Driver, Escape Room, the Insidious and Resident Evil franchises, Call Me By Your Name, Don't Breathe, and many, many others. I'm glad she's here to tell us all the inside scoop from the studio and indie perspective. Melissa has a BA in visual design from CSUS, an MBA from Pepperdine University, and a Master's of Communication from USC. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Melissa! Okay, it's my boys' time. My boys' club are coming up. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miles Yaxish! Michael, I'm looking at Michael. Miles is an award-winning independent filmmaker based now in LA. Through his short films, Miles has created an appealing body of work that explores human experience on a global scale, with a particular focus on the complexity of self-discovery through interactions with strangers. You're going to be networking after this with all these people. He was born in Canada, and he learned at a young age to travel and appreciate art and culture. After completing his degree in finance and economics, he pursued investment banking in Singapore. Logical next step in filmmaking, right? And private equity in Southeast Asia before relocating to Los Angeles to pursue filmmaking. Miles' films have screened around the world at over 40 festivals, including premieres at the Academy qualifying LA Shorts Fest, receiving over 30 awards, including Best Writer, Best Director, and Best Film. Okay, everybody, we got a powerhouse tonight. His feature debut, Albatross, premiered at the Sedona International Film Festival, where it received the Director's Choice Indie Spirit Award, and is currently available on Apple TV, Amazon, and various other platforms. Everybody, welcome Miles! Okay, y'all, I always say I don't have any favorites, but here comes my partner in crime. It's Michael Fisk, everybody! Michael, of course, is the co-founder of our Business of Creating panel series. He is a senior marketing executive in the entertainment industry, having spearheaded over 500 marketing campaigns for studios like Sony Pictures, Lionsgate, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers, and most recently MGM. He's co-founder also of Pangram Entertainment, which develops and produces TV and film and distributes content from international markets. I love what we've got. We've got in here in the U.S., we've got international. It's all happening on our panel tonight, you guys. I'm so glad we record these because that way I get to take notes afterward. Michael also runs Intermark, the international consulting practice, focusing on helping filmmakers, producers, directors, and distributors with long-term marketing strategy and producing. His passion is indeed making your passion project succeed. Fun fact, some of his favorite marketing campaigns that he worked on are James Bond franchise, but he only did the last 6, so, not sure how much that counts. Spider-Man, several of Damien Chazelle's films like Whiplash and La La Land, and even the guilty pleasure movie, Paul Blart Mall Cop. Ladies and gentlemen. Uh-oh, this is new info for me, 1 and 2. I don't know about this. Michael, you should. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what an awesome panel we're going to have on film festivals tonight. Thank you for joining us. Okay, everybody, check it out. Yeah, we're starting with our overview questions. How do you determine if your project is even right for film festivals? And then if so, how to select the right festivals for your project? What's the difference between festivals? I mean, can't I just throw them out to every festival? What? So yeah, TV, shorts, docs, features, and then a special heads up here about debunking some of the festival myths.
The key thing you have to do is to, first of all, look at your film, like unpack your film and think about what kind of festivals are going to be right for it. So if you go in saying to yourself, right, we finished the film, we're going to have to do the late deadline today for South by Southwest, that's not the best idea because you haven't looked at the film first. You've got to figure out, is this the kind of film that South by Southwest are interested in? Are they going to want? Is it the right kind of quality? Is it the right kind of story, execution, performances, all that kind of thing? Or is it better for more niche festivals or smaller tier? You have to really unpack that first before you do any submissions and start spending money and all that kind of thing and wasting thousands. It all starts with your film.
What are you looking at?
Oh, I have a question. I want to know, like, Miles, like, how did you determine, like, your films, you know, when you ended up, you know, making that, you know, decision, right? Like, is there certain times where you thought, I don't want to do this? And, or, okay.
Yeah, so with my first short film, I was new to filmmaking and I just moved here. And with that one, I kind of didn't understand that there's a strategy involved in it, so I just started submitting to, like, everything that I thought was somewhat relevant. And it was, like, fairly successful. I got into a lot of the festivals, which was great, but from that I learned how to approach the second short film and a bit more how to approach for the feature. So with the second short film, it was more like any festivals that I got into the first time and had built relationships with the festival directors. That was like a first spot to look for, and then of course things that were more niche, as Rebekah was saying, that like specifically talked about or were catering to the topics that my film addressed. I would look at those. And then for my feature film, it was kind of the same. I started off with what was my goal with that, which was finding distribution, which actually happened before the festivals. So then from that point, it was just about which festivals I had a good relationship with. So I wasn't spending too much money on applying for things that weren't going to serve anymore.
If I can, I really liked how you mentioned, look, even though I kind of, you know, scattershotted it for the first one, it still helped you build relationships that helped you down the road. So kind of a nice, you know, hidden gem within that. So even though it didn't seem like it was the right fit, it didn't end up being the wrong fit because something else came out of it.
And also within that, it's like tapping into the resources of your team. So I would talk to like all of the actors, my producing partner, my cinematographer, like which festivals had their other projects been in, or like where are they from? Are there regional festivals that maybe are interested in local filmmakers who are working on projects and stuff? And then you can start to like build out a web of resources that go beyond yourself as an individual.
Yeah, no, I think it was interesting you said also your goal on the second film was like more distribution, right? You know, and I think that's something just to consider is like what, you know, you have to kind of figure out like, are you doing it for, you know, for the laurels, you know, very often, which is actually a good thing from a, like, and we'll talk more about the marketing aspect of it, you know, but having those laurels is really important. But also, are you going to the festivals because you're like, oh, it actually has people there who will actually buy it or distribute it? You know, I know from like, from a more of like a studio perspective, they look at it as like it's less distribution because they're kind of built in. There, it's more of like, okay, how do you actually find the right one to actually get the awards campaign, to get that Oscar, to get that at the time Golden Globes, you know, whatever it might be, to be able to help market it and then get more people to actually see the film. And that's why you always see the festival circuits usually always, you know, at the tail end of this year, because we as humans have short attention spans. And so like it's very hard for you to release it in a January, February. It doesn't mean you can't, and it doesn't mean that they don't exist, but from the studios, they tended to push it more into the fall period of when you see them, and that's usually when you have the awards campaign kick in on a big scale. But I think but I don't think from more of an indie side, that's a little different, because right, there you're trying to do it more year round.
I would say, aside from entering contests and entering competition, one thing to consider, because as independent filmmakers, you really, if you're honest with yourself, you're going to have pretty babies, you're going to have ugly babies, and you have invested resources, money, sweat, and however that film has turned out, you got to live with it. You can't throw it away. So the one thing, you know, and everybody mentioned a bit throughout, is you've got to kind of determine, okay, with the film festival, if my objective is competition, and then I made a film that isn't great for competition, what are some other options? Other options could be, Are you a first-time filmmaker? Is it a particular subject matter? Is it a particular group? So there are a lot of things that I think that when you look at a film festival, or you're going to go through the issue of submitting, as everybody mentioned here, the goal, but also there's an opportunity for a movie that, and I have a couple, and I've done a couple, that are real, like, ooh, they're not audience winners, but this one particular film I have, the objective of the filmmaker and the actors were really to show this as their launching pad. It wasn't for distribution. So we are prettying the movie up, but it's really to show, one, this first-time filmmaker, writer, director, to really kind of introduce him to everybody. So can we find a film festival that will take the film and do that? And so we can do it as kind of a special exhibition or some of the sidebars. It's not in competition. The other thing that we will benefit from is we will have it reviewed. It will get bad reviews, but it will get that filmmaker's name out there. It will get awareness for the actors. The performances are good. The crafts are good. It was made during COVID, so it was tough. So I would also consider that you have to be somewhat honest with yourself, because you're kind of what kind of film you have, and are you willing to burn the resources? So consider that a film festival can be more than competition. It can be a promotional platform, an awareness platform, but you really have to think about what your key objective is. And it's not all like, I want to win the Cannes Palme d'Or. Well, we all do. But let's say you can't get into that, and we'll go into it more. There are other sidebar competitions. I actually had a film this year. I was going to go and just work with we were trying to find distribution. We needed it reviewed. We were just going to go to Cannes on the tail end. A lot of studios do this. You rent a theater and you show it, and people show up. It's not in competition, but is it part of the festival? Maybe. So that would be my answer to some of that is, what's your strategic business objective, personal objective, professional objective?
Can you give the example, because we're doing this one, there's a political documentary that we're working on. And there, I remember we were sitting there, and the key was trying to find countries that would play it that were supporting democracy. I don't know if you want to, because that was a very different.
Yeah. So the situation in Ukraine, the situation in Ukraine is very similar to a potential situation in Asia, and so we submitted it. Taiwan, China, Ukraine, Russia. So we submitted it to the Golden Horse Festival because politically, one, we could get awareness. You're nodding your head. You probably, if you know it, it's one of the top festivals in Asia. But it was just based on thematic, and it's a French film. So we submitted it to the Golden Horse Festival because it had similar, the geopolitical implications of Ukraine and Russia with China and Taiwan. And that was just to get awareness for the film and to get press on the film. And so
we were trying hotspots everywhere, like Israel. Yeah. We're like, it was amazing how many hotspots there are in the world, and we're like, okay. But that was literally, the point was more of, hey, everyone has a different objective for their film, and only you really know what that is, but you have to take a really good, hard look at that.
And it was a French language film about a subject matter in Ukraine and Russia. So if we submitted it, the idea was we get some awareness, and maybe if we got some press, maybe we get a distributor willing to do it.
Yeah, and that's also a good point, Rebekah, about the business side, because that goes for features and short films. It's got a bit of a business plan for a short film as well as a feature. Like, for example, not just about selling a short, because it's a different kind of market, but kind of thing like, is this going to be made to submit to the Oscars? If you're hoping to win that particular award, it has to be very strategic. You've got to juggle a few kind of premiere policies here and there that might occur, like LA Shorts is LA premiere policy. There's a lot of festivals in LA. So again, you've still got to be, the business head's got to come on, as you said. So for shorts and features.
Okay, thank you for coming, everybody. Have a good night. I'm like, I'm full. So can we jump on to debunking some of the festival myths? A little it. I love how we touched on how we have the different sidebars and the, hey, rent out a theater, people will show up, you got awareness, So I love that we have these different ways of making it work, even if it's at con or if it's at, Golden Horse or what have you. So what are some of these myths we can debunk?
This is like one of my favorite things. So there's like two big myths that I just love to debunk, and I like give like the truth to the matter. So the first one is the magical 15 minutes and the magical 90 minutes. I think just like back in 2013, 2014, I had a few filmmakers say to me that, oh, my film needs to be 15 minutes. I said, why? And they said, because that will help you get into festivals, because it's 15 minutes, exactly 15 minutes on the dot. And I was like, well, it doesn't need to be 15 minutes. Your film needs to be the length it needs to be. That could be 14, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 25, 28, 30, 32. You just have to be in the edit, very, very kill your darlings and not, run away with the nice scenery, and just make sure every scene counts towards telling the story for your short and feature, and there's no dead air or anything like that. And the same with the magical 90 minutes. It doesn't have to be 90 minutes. It can be 87, it could be 80, 75, 65, or 110. Well, maybe not 3 hours, but, it needs to be the length it needs to be.
Like an auction house.
An auction house, yeah. 91. Or 29. So that's one thing, is just don't get attached to a number. I had one filmmaker last week say, my film is 10 minutes, 11 seconds. So tell me, please, and I'll pay you. What will I have to do to get to 15? Well, it needs to be 9 minutes and 36 seconds, to be honest, because the credits go on forever. So that's another thing, is the credits need to go up quickly. And the other myth is the never submit to a late deadline. That's something that people, again, it's like 2014, this whole myth came up that, never submit to a late deadline because no one's going to watch the film. There is some truth in that. Not all festivals at a late deadline, sometimes have the space, and it's best to submit early as possible. That's what I do with my clients, just make sure that we get, things in early and not too late, unless I know the festival and they're going to watch it at a late deadline. But, a lot of them do, because they're looking for films and want to create their program, and they accept things at late deadline. I've had tons of films that get in at late deadline, but you just have to know which ones. But also, a late deadline is expensive normally. It's a bit more money than early birds say. So it's always a good idea to, submit early, but it's not every single festival. The golden rule is that every festival is different in terms of how they program, how they manage the festival. So you have to do your research and speak to me. So I can debunk more myths with you than I have on my sleeve. But it's just really important that, you do your due diligence is the key thing.
I'm going to add one addendum, though, is if you're doing feature length, just be aware if you're going to, even though, what she's saying, be aware of if you're going to submit not just festivals for awards. You don't want to, like, oh, I don't care, and you cut your film and it comes in at 59 minutes, but if you got it to an hour 10, it qualifies as a feature for AMPUS, for all that. So I would be aware, obviously make the film you're going to make, but be aware that if you're going to do awards beyond festivals, there are feature qualifiers.
Yeah,
timing.
That is a good point. But there is a strange length. Some films are what we call mid-length. It can be between 45 and 59 minutes, which is like a bit of a, I don't suppose it's a no man's land, but a lot of documentaries come in mid-length, and that's a bit of a different market. But then when a feature comes and it's 45 minutes, it's in that weird limbo phase. And then I have one film that is very good that's 50 minutes, and it's won awards for best short, best feature, best mid-length. So we don't know what to do with it, what kind of film it is. So we're like, oh, well, we're a feature today, and oh, we're a short today. So, because
it's like the Goldilocks,
yeah.
It's like the porridge.
So we're like, oh, so again, it's just best to, as you were saying, very clearly, is just make sure that you have made the film it needs to be, the length it needs to be,
and do your homework, y'all. Okay.
I was gonna add one
How
thing.
long was the which was?
97.
There you go. You didn't do 90 minutes. You were 97.
What it needed to be.
Exactly. There you go.
But one thing I would add to that with first short films more than features, because they're composed in blocks. If you are going after a string of laurels, from experience, and you can correct it.
Because you had a ton. I remember seeing on your page where you had, like, it was amazing.
If it's shorter, like comedies and stuff, if they're like under 9 minutes, I've found that like they can get programmed a lot easier because it's a genre that's not so much explored in short film content, and it's, if you're submitting to late deadlines, it's easier to plug in something that is shorter than to find space for a 16. Like, both of my short films were 17 and 20 minutes, so they were on the longer side, but then it becomes harder to plug in if a festival's mostly been programmed. Yeah. And that's something I found, like, depending where you are and what your objective is. So if you want a page of laurels, shorter might be an easier way to go after that.
It's all like, you're right, is that in terms of like with length, it is like any short film that is a bit of a longer short film, like you mentioned with your lengths, and 30 minutes, you know, that kind of thing, it's harder to program because there's a lot of other films that might be easier to slot in or the theme, but it deserves, it's like every scene must count in a short, especially, is going to be longer.
Types of festivals. Okay, you guys, this is the one. Do we want people to take pictures of these ones?
Want to take pictures of them? We can just flip through them quickly because there's a bunch. Take it with a grain of salt because festivals change quite a bit. You probably looked at it and were like, you know, it's like, you know. But it's just, what it is what we wanted to do here is, Jen, is it okay if I just flip through them?
Please.
Okay.
Well, give people a moment so that they can take pictures of, like, we have several examples of, hey, here's our kinds of festivals. These are good ones for shorts. These are good ones for international, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody, cameras are out, and we're clicking, we're clicking. And we're moving to the next thing.
Yeah, we have, you know, everything from this is just more of like a sampling, just to show. I mean, there's no shortage of film festivals to apply to, right? You know, and you have A-list, you have B-list, you know, that are just based on size. And then also you have ones US, you have ones international in Europe. And there's trust me, there's a ton out there.
Can I flag two that I think are important? And you can talk about this. I think Rotterdam is a really good festival. I think you guys are nodding your head because there's development opportunities for filmmakers, script review, that sort of thing. So there's like funding I think you can get through there. It's not necessarily through the festival, but it's not necessarily subsidies, I think, but it's basically you can have it reviewed, and there's development opportunities there. So that's a good one. The other one that is not on here, and I think is a great one for everyone to know, and you can probably speak to it, is New Zealand, because that one pays, right? Like so I
guess.
No, but like it's one that it basically travels throughout New Zealand, and does it travel through Australia?
Australia and New Zealand.
And then, but the films actually you make money on.
Yeah, they pay screening fees, small ones, but they do. But it's something.
I think it's something to flag that most domestic film festivals, but like you submit, you get in, and you get a small screening fee. So
sounds like a good plan. All right, we're going to have a lot more submissions now to New Zealand.
New Zealand
and
is
Rotterdam.
Flooded
Fantastic.
You have hospitality, kind of the local, more of the local ones you can see here, and there's a ton of those. The genre ones, there's quite a few there.
What I appreciate about it, though, Michael, is, as we know, a lot of times people say, well, where do I even get started? And, you know how much I hate the G word. Don't Google it. Go get somebody who really knows what they're talking about to give you a place to start. So here you go.
Can I add something?
Please.
So as a filmmaker, I'd say when you're looking at the festivals and submitting, it's also different for, like, choosing which festivals you're going to go to represent your film, I think, is also important, because some festivals are really good for filmmakers to network with other filmmakers, and they're very, like, you had a hospitality slide, I didn't see the festival on it, but there's some that are really good about doing panel discussions or networking opportunities, and Sedona is one that I think is a really good filmmaker-friendly festival. Other festivals that I've gone to that are really good caliber festivals don't invest as much into the filmmakers, and I find they are useful for maybe other things like audience feedback. The audiences are packed with the local audiences. Edmonton was one that I had this experience. So they had a couple networking things for filmmakers, but to invest my time and money to actually go represent the film, I found I maybe could have gone somewhere else that would have been better use of my time. But for a feature, I think it would have been great because you can hear the audience's feedback and they're not filmmaker people. They are like the local people in Edmonton. Every audience was packed. You can really feel how they're absorbing your film. But I went there with a short film, so I didn't necessarily need to know that for like recutting or something for distribution.
And how, like, it's interesting you said, like, you went to like a festival or two and you're like, oh, this wasn't right for me. How do you feel? Do you feel like you had to go to realize it, or is there a way you could have known? I mean, because it's hard, because, you know what I mean? I'm trying to say, it's like, sometimes you're just like, you have to go and then you realize it, or is there something you can do to be like, oh, this wasn't right?
I do think, like, just asking if anyone you know has been there before and what was their experience. And Edmonton was still a great festival. I had, like, a blast there. Just, I was expecting more networking, and I realized I was getting more, like, audience feedback. And that was with my first short film, so I was kind of like, this is a disconnect between what I need. And it's like, I spent so much money going there, I could have applied to, like, 5 or 6 more festivals or something, as opposed to doing that. So I would say talking to other filmmakers and understanding their experience at festivals, like the ones that I've enjoyed, I'm always promoting and telling people you should apply to this one because they really go out of their way to make sure you have a good time. They're going to introduce you to all the other filmmakers. You're going to meet people. And other festivals might be good for like audience feedback or something else.
So you're saying everybody should connect with you on LinkedIn and follow you on Instagram. Okay, there you go. He's going to give you the info right away there. Fantastic. Okay, so how do I apply? Can I just give him a call?
Well, when it comes to the application process, you will, as you're probably aware, you're going to be using filmfreeway.com, but you're going to be using that platform no matter what, because there's a lot of loads of festivals on filmfreeway.com. But other festivals don't use Film Freeway. There are other platforms as well to be aware of, so it is important to be familiar with them, such as Short Film Depot. There is Fest Home. They all work differently. A lot of festivals don't use any of those platforms, like for example Rotterdam don't, and Venice and Locarno. They don't need those platforms. They have their own website and, you know, South by Southwest. So it's not all on Film Freeway. There's a lot on Film Freeway, but it is important, no matter what platform you're going to be submitting your film on, that you have all the materials you're going to be needing to submit. That being a poster, a trailer, and that's for both shorts and features, by the way, not just a feature. Synopsis that is not, 15, 20 pages, more like just 2 succinct paragraphs. Same with the director's bio, director's statement, a headshot of the director. It's also important that you do have an Instagram account that is not dormant, that you do check, because a lot of festivals will often notify you about something on there before email. But just sometimes you'll see things on there and, and get tagged. So it's important that you do check it and not be, never check it for 3 months. You might miss something.
So they use Instagram more than Facebook or others. It's like that Instagram is the one. I never knew that. That's fascinating.
In my experience, it's Instagram. Some festivals do use, in addition, Facebook, and some do just use Facebook. Not so much LinkedIn. LinkedIn, no. It's more nowadays Instagram, which is why it's important that you are, have an account on there. It's also important as well on your Film Freeway page, whatever kind of festival you're going to submit to, whatever platform it is, that you do have a website, not always for the film, but maybe for your production company, or for yourself, your personal website, whatever, as long as it has, information on you and where people can find you. Sometimes festivals use that in the brochures, in the programming. And also be honest about the specifications, like when it was completed, and that's not the time that you finished shooting it, it's the time you finish the film in the edit. That's completion date, is when you finish the edit. And then obviously where it was shot, the production country, place of filming, the length, put that, honestly in minutes and seconds, those kind of like basic information. It's also important as well that you do put money aside in case you need one for an SRT file for subtitling, festivals that do not speak in your language, that being obviously English. Is also important too, along with money for what's called a DCP. So there's a few extra things you might have to start spending money on. Getting a poster done professionally and a trailer done professionally is important. Not like, Canva won't work and paintbrush. It needs to be, somebody that can do it professionally.
Sorry, Michael, I think, don't we have a slide that talks about having onto the, It's like, I know I read about that. Wait a minute. Just to make us look at all these slides we have, everybody. But I saw a lot of
here,
people.
this one.
There you
Is
go.
this
Yeah,
it?
because I saw a lot of people trying to write director's statement.
Oh, yeah,
DPK,
yeah.
what? My fingers are cramping.
I'm glad you pay attention to my own slides. Thank you, Jennifer.
You can see how good I am
I
at
know, exactly.
proofreading, though.
Sorry.
Which also reminds me as well is a key thing that I've just seen on this list. Thank you for showing it to me.
Yeah, take pictures, please, everybody.
Is you will need to put on to your Film Freeway page and other pages that you're going to be using, other accounts on like Festa and whatever. You're going to need stills, and ideally they be stills, not screenshots. So it's important that in development that you do get on board a still photographer that can take proper pictures on the set of the film. Sometimes with screenshots they're okay. They're not always bad, but they can be a bit grainy. And like for a poster, to sell the film might be a bit like squinting, like what's this, kind of thing. So that's really important that you do get professional pictures.
I would also say that list is pretty much if you get distribution. I mean, there's some things missing on there, but I'm sure if once you get distribution, you're nodding, yeah, like there's a few more chain of titles, CCL, there's music cues, all that. But, if you're at this stage and, you at least build this inventory, hopefully you get distribution, your delivery requirements are not that much further from these materials.
Can I just ask, when you talk about the SRT files and the DCP, roughly how much should filmmakers set aside for that? Like, is this roughly?
Oh, well, in terms of cost, so a DCP, by the way, I didn't really explain that properly. A DCP means a digital cinema package, and that's to screen the film in a theater. I have a contact that can do that for a good rate. Darren, Darren in his house can do that. For a feature, I think he charges like $350, and for a short, it's like under that, depending on the length of the film. But if you go to a post-production house, it's normally more because you have to pay for their overhead costs. So it's best to go with something independent, so it's going to be a bit cheaper. And with an SRT file, that's actually a lot less now. If you go on rev.com, that's a good platform because I think it's like by per word it gets charged, but it's really reasonable. As last time I checked with a client.
Sorry, that's REV, Rev, like
yeah.
your motorcycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
that's a really good resource. It's not maybe like going to break the bank, but festivals can't cover this cost. Like when I worked for a festival, because I've done a lot of programming, it was a horror film festival in the UK, and then the filmmaker. So this is like when DCP was just coming out, in the world of like technology. And we're like, we need DCP, and it was at that point it was really expensive to get one made. It was expensive back in the early 2000s, and 2009 I think it was. And he said, "Oh, can you make it?" And we're like, "We can't make it, too expensive." And he was like, "Well, I can't screen it because I've used up the money." So it's important to put money aside.
I'm glad you answered that because right now I'm dealing with releasing a film and the filmmakers did not deliver DCP, which I have to pay for, or SRTs, or unit photography, or and so that's why I think it's really important. Like if you're already making your shorter film, like just build it into the budget, build it into the time to get all these things, because then you'll be saving yourself money in the long run. You feel like it's a pain point right now, but also it just makes it a lot easier for you to be able to get when we talk next about marketing publicity, because that unit photography comes into play in so many different ways. And I just want to say that it's also my pet peeve, like when filmmakers say it's like, I don't have any unit photography, just take a screenshot. We're just like, it's just not the same. I'm
gonna also just, one tip is I literally just had this movie. I'll tell you the movie. It's called Spin the Bottle. It's a 21-day shoot, unit photography, 6 days. They did not shoot, and it's a horror. They did not cover one day where the cast and the storyline, they played Spin the Bottle or the bottle. I'm not kidding. I'm trying to sell, and I'm trying to get distribution on this film. I'm literally like, you covered 6 days, which is very expensive, union unit. I don't think they did, maybe 600 a day or whatever. In my previous jobs, I used to run photography for Sony Pictures and NBC before I did marketing. So one way to get around that is, or at least is, and I think it's the filmmaker's job, or the producer, director, look at your one-liner and think of where's the poster, so cover that day. And the second would be, what are the days that best represent the overall theme of the film. So even if it's a 21-day shoot, you don't need 21 days covered. You just, and obviously, you have 4K, you can pull nice stuff. You don't need 21 days covered. But again, just remember this, spin the bottle, days not covered, 6 days covered, murder scenes, this, that, and the other thing. No bottle. And by the way, the bottle's spinning, so what kind, even at 4K, what am I really grabbing? Blurry. Like, even in the best resolution, no bottle, none of the cast playing spin the bottle. So that all I'm saying is, even if you can cover 1 or 2 days, and the days you can't cover, and again, it's not the best, but our phones are wonderful. And, you know, you can just up that res and just take even your phone is better than nothing. And I know as producers and directors, you're like, I gotta shoot, I don't care, I'm losing daylight. No, I promise you. So that would be my tip. Just cover 1 day, cover 2 days, get some kids these, and I'm saying kids because I'm old, but they've got nice phones, just cover it. Just cover it, and I promise you, you won't be sorry.
Yeah, and one other thing too is if you were going to choose a day and you do it more thematically, as Melissa's saying, but if you happen to have a lot of your actors in there and they're all ready in makeup and wardrobe, that's also a really good day to do it because they're all there, right? And it's very often people are like, oh shit, I have to get them, because it costs much more to bring people back to do a shoot, to put them back in wardrobe, and then get their hair and makeup and all that. Like what you already paid for it on set, just take the photos right then and there.
If you have to do screen grabs for cast, just have them sit in front of the camera and when you're filming, just have them hold, and then you can pull something. But I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm just saying, if you're desperate and you're like, I can't, just have them, like you would, just have them stand in front of the camera, pose like it's a still camera, and then you've at least got it covered.
And don't forget to get the bottle. Yeah. Look at the title of your film. Shoot anything that's in the title. Okay.
Yes, so as I mentioned about late deadlines, sometimes it's all right, as long as you're clear, but also, cover letters. Like, they're not essential. So you don't have to write a cover letter with every submission because it may or may not get read. So some people don't read cover letters at all because they're too busy. Some read at the end when they've made selections and don't get swayed into thinking they should screen it because of a reason why and whatever reason. And some read them because you made the effort. So it's a 50-50 chance, it really is, like heads or tails. But it doesn't mean you're going to get selected if it's a really cover letter. It's all about the film. But also, if festivals want to know something, they ask you when you submit. That sometimes you'll find there's some very personal questions with some festivals, like what's your gender and what's your who are you? What's your pronouns? They're all for kind of not research. It's more not HR. It's more just programming purposes because some festivals will have programs that are for LGBTQ and they need that information in case you fit in that particular program. Some ask you if you're from, say, Rhode Island, if you're alumni, because they need to know those things. If they want to know something, they ask. They don't run a cover letter. So don't spend hours and hours writing a cover letter because it might not get read, but also, if it's the right kind of strategy, it'll be with the right kind of festival seeing it. Let go of control and desired outcome. That's the hardest thing to do. That takes willpower. I think a good note here is to detach emotionally from your film. See the film as a product. You've made it, you've spent blood, sweat and tears making it, God knows how much money and time, blah, blah, blah. But festivals, that's not what they're interested in. It's about the finished film, it's the finished product. So it's important that you do not take things personally when a rejection letter comes in, because you will get rejections as part of the process. So it's going to come in. So don't take it that they didn't like you or the film. It's other reasons why. So it's important not to get worried about anything and just literally let go. And whatever happens, happens. It could be that you get a few no's and a yes, or yes, 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 no, 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 yes at the end. You just can't predict or control that. So it's just really important to believe in yourself and the film, and the right festival will come along at the right time. Just don't think about how, what, why, where, and when, because it'll get too stressful.
So it sounds just like any other kind of job interview, actually.
Yes.
Hey.
One thing that I found useful for me, so I don't know if this is advisable or not, but because premiere status sometimes matters and sometimes doesn't. So for my films, when we get into a festival that would affect a premiere status for a region, I would let if it was a somewhat noteworthy festival, then I would let other festivals know, like, we've got our premiere festival, but it's this one, like, it's a good one, because then that sometimes I found, like, helped them be like, oh, it's a good quality film that has gone into this festival at a certain level, and it might help them at least watch it if they haven't already, or have it on their radar again. And sometimes, I don't know if it helps me get into more festivals, but at least it opened like a communication with the festival directors.
It kind of gets more intrigue and like, oh, this could be quite interesting because it's got into, Sedona, Rhode Island, etc., that kind of thing. So yes, it does help just putting it out, information around, and also to make sure that you do keep your poster ready with your laurels. So when you get into festivals, definitely put on the special selection laurel leaves, because they're important, because festivals look at them. When they see on the Film Freeway page, for example, there's a poster with laurels, look at the laurels and go, I always look at laurels whenever when a poster comes my way. I'm like, oh, or why are these all just like these monthly online film festivals, which are not film festivals? Because that worries me. It just devalues the worth of the film, or it could be this, they don't have the right strategy. So I have to do my little research there and look at the laurel leaves. They're very important that you keep that consistent updated, keep your Film Freeway page updated all the time with your laurels.
Does everyone know what laurels are? Because I didn't. So laurels are the little palm leaves that say this festival. And I'm only saying it for the longest time. I'd be like, where's the little logo for the festival? But that's what it is. So yeah.
No, that was the first time I heard that there's the purely online film festivals they're doing. Okay, well, what do you think of them?
Well, it's the type of thing, if you're going for laurels, because the two things that I kind of learned was, if something has like a monthly film festival, then it's not going to be like anything, because it's too many films going through and also if a festival has like too many categories, it's the same kind of feeling, is that like if a festival has like 40 categories, then it's like everyone is going to get an award, and it doesn't really mean anything outside of making your poster more full, which some people want, and that's like that I learned just from experience, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, they can trick you in the beginning, because it's like, oh, what's this? And then you look at it closely, and when it says it's like a film festival, it's not, because it doesn't actually happen. It's not a live film festival. It says online event, but it's like they say, behind closed doors, the jury, or like buy at the films and see if you win. Oh, you won. You paid to win your award. Best shorts competition, all this kind of thing, which is nonsense. So I would avoid those, because it just devalues the worth of your film. So if you think, these laurels, like I had this one guy come to me, he had 60 laurels on the poster, and he's like, oh yeah, the film's doing really well, but it's not getting to like festivals that actually take place physically. I'm like, well, that's because they're all like, you're just paying for awards, that's why. So then I just understand, and he had to explain to me, he was like, oh, okay, I see now what's happening, and now I feel a bit cheated. I said, well, I would just get rid of those laurels if you want to be taken seriously. The film is pretty good. So, let's go for festivals that are more in line with the film, that actually are real festivals you can actually go to, and actually network and get a laurel that actually means something and has value.
I would counter that back to my original statement earlier about ugly babies films. Because if you want to get distribution, and you've already gone down the line, you're like, it's not good, it's this. There's, sometimes those you can at least show a potential distributor that there's fan interest, or there's, kind of what you were talking about, we used to call them populist film festivals, like Toronto or whatever. Like, yeah, it's not the greatest film, but we can find an audience for it, and here's reactions. Usually you use critics and things and reporters for that, but sometimes those work too. It's your baby, whether it's good or bad. So I would say that would be a case where you go where you can and you just hustle.
That goes back to our original point of doing your homework and what are your goals for going to the different festivals. Well, okay, we need to get a bunch of laurels on there. We need it to look super pretty, so let's do it,
Also, if any festival reaches out to you to submit to their festival, like on social media or something, if they don't give you a substantial discount or a total waiver, I would not do that because they are just looking for your submission fee. If they are actually interested in seeing your film or they've heard about it at another festival, then they should be screening it for their festival, I would say.
Yeah. They try and slide into the DMs, and like, oh, we've heard of your film, and we're like the Magic Film Festival, and here's a discount, but it's not really a film festival, so it's just, they don't know anything about the film, they're just spam.
Right.
So you swipe left.
Get rid of it.
That's the After Dark panel, Michael. But so, I mean, it's okay to say, well, good, put mine in for free then.
Well, that's what I'll ask if they offer a waiver, and if they say no, like a 10% discount, I'll just say that I've spent my festival budget, and if you're interested in seeing the film, then I'm more than happy to screen it at your festival, but I'm not going to pay to submit to something I wasn't interested in.
Kind of a business and personal lesson, know your own worth. There you go. All right, that's the panel, everybody. No. Michael, what do we have next up on the slides here? Step-by-step checklist. Oh, yes, please.
You want to just talk, because your example then, Miles and then Melissa, we have some examples here.
Yeah, so that is a short film called The Shipment, obviously, as the poster says. This is a good example of about the film length and also how to bring in PR to your film festival campaign. So this film this is a Canadian short film, and it's 30 minutes long, and it is a very big budget short. It's a 6-figure sum, and it has very good VFX, and it's sci-fi, obviously. It's called Shipment. And he was worried about the length because it was obviously a longer short, and I saw it and said, it's great. It needs to be literally just 30 minutes. It could be maybe 29, maybe just a little bit longer with the credits, but don't change it. And he said, let's do a 15-minute version. I was like, here we go again. It's that magic number. I said, it's not going to work. So we did a 15-minute version, and it didn't work. And he did it to put it into more festivals, and it wasn't getting selections. He was getting a little bit impatient because he was like, I've done all these submissions with you now, and I want to get into festivals, and this kind of thing. And he got into one, a smaller one. And then I said, you have to just be very patient. Just let go. Believe in the length of the film. It's going to get something. It's going to be quality, not quantity. And then 2 months later, it got Tribeca, then it got Palm Springs, then it got Nashville. And the 15-minute version, nobody took. Because it just literally, it lost all the emotion from the characters and the story. It was all chopped up. And I mean, it's got distribution on iTunes now, and no one sees a 50-minute version, it's only a 30-minute version. And we also hired to do the PR for the film around the festival circuit, Rebekah in our company. And it got really good reviews and good press coverage, and it got a lot of good reception. It was kind of nicknamed the $1 Million Short, which got people interested because it was wanting people to see it because of that tagline. And we also got distribution afterwards as well. We got a sales agent. We got approached by Dust. It wasn't quite the right fit, and then someone else came on board, another company, which got us distribution for iTunes and Amazon. And it's now available in Canada to rent on Amazon Canada. So the journey for that was just really believing in the length, and that things will come in when you let go, but also just when you really believe in the film and that it needs to be that length, and not worry about other people getting maybe more selections. It's quality, not quantity, and that's what really matters, especially with that film. Because a lot of festivals did say to me, yes, we loved it. We've got to put our whole program around this film, which you can't always do. So Rebekah told me, because I know that people at Tribeca really well, he watched the film. Ben, who runs the shorts programming, he said, I really like the film. I'm going to just put it on my list, because if I'm going to put it in, I've got to find an hour's worth of other sci-fis that can fill that block, because it's half an hour. So I've got to work out, it's only an hour-and-a-half program, but let me work on it. And he sat on it for a few months, and then he said yes. And all the other films in that block were 10, 12, 15 minutes, or shorts to go around. At the end, that was the last one at the end. It was well programmed. So that's the kind of goal there with that particular case study, is that integrate PR when the time is right, when you go to a festival that's going to need PR like Rebekah, and then also get a sales agent when you have valuable laurels to tell sales agents that it's worthy going on Amazon and iTunes, for example.
And I know that's one of our slides coming up after our examples, is to talk more about marketing and publicity. So look at these gorgeous posters right here, my goodness.
These are just examples of posters and marketing material for festivals, I guess. So all of them actually, too, talking about unit photography. Poppy's and Aaron, the stills came from unit photography. But for Poppy's, like, I didn't have a unit photographer. I just grabbed the actors. I knew what I kind of wanted to do for the poster, and it was like at the end of our shoot, we had to, like, while we were wrapping out, it was just like, sit there, I'll take took like 100 photos, not really, like, in 5 minutes, and then played around with Photoshop a lot to get it to where I wanted it to be. Aaron was just from a unit still. I didn't know what I was going to do with that poster. And then Albatross, the poster, actually came from a film still. So I took a screen grab from the film because the idea I had for the poster, we did a unit, we did like a part of a day where we did a photo shoot. It was supposed to be like a dinner party, kind of the Norman Rockwell Thanksgiving poster was the first idea, but it did not work for the tone of the film. So I just grabbed a screen grab and played in Photoshop.
I was fortunate to be able to go to your premiere in Westwood with the film, and I know you're talking about with the dinner scene. This one, yeah, this one's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. And also, just for festivals, like, I brought an example, but I always do like a 4x6 card that has the poster on the front, a synopsis, and some screen grabs on the back. And then I get stickers printed where you can put the screening time in place so that you can use them at different festivals rather than getting them made up for each festival.
What do you do print up usually?
Oh, I do a lot.
Okay.
Like, because it's cheaper. So they tell you, right? But because you have to, like, I assume I'm going to go to a lot of festivals. I don't want to go in with the mentality that I'm not going to get into things. So I get like a few hundred printed, and then I bring like.
And so do you so how do you go about like?
Usually, if they do like networking events or something, you just put them on the cocktail tables, or when they're doing the ticket stands, you can put them on the ticket stands. Usually, you'll see all the other filmmakers there doing that as well. And then also when I do my business cards, I get them printed with different film stills on one side and my name and information on the back, so it at least is like kind of marketing your project. And I didn't wear it today because I couldn't find it, but I always get a hat made for crew gifts when I'm doing a film, and then I always like wear that around as well, so it at least has the film name on it.
I don't know if we have time for trailers, but you also have the trailers.
Well, just for examples, but like short films, I do like 40-second trailers, and then for the feature, it's longer. It's like a minute something.
So, I know these are bigger movies. Working in a studio, you use, festivals are being used as a promotional platform. I just wanted to give examples. For Train Spotting, that was in Berlin, and that was a tough movie because that was a sequel, and the first movie is. The marketing challenge at the time was, I think the previous film was made 20 years before, so any fans of it, they're like my senior citizens. So it was just trying to make it relevant. So we brought it to Berlin. We did a screening out of competition, brought the talent. It got reviewed. So, and then to kind of make it younger, I partnered with Boiler Room, which is like an online music. You guys know what it is. And EDM. And I threw a 90s style rave with I flew in old different DJs from different countries, and it started at midnight. It started after the film, and then it went till 7 in the morning. So that was just an example of not really anything to do with the festival. Didn't really need, we just needed to make an impact in Europe outside of Edinburgh, and it's such a UK film, and so that was just a marketing stunt. I think the other I
want you to talk about the famous.
Well, wait. Yeah. I was going to say, call me.
Someone famous
well,
here too.
I think the one that's probably interesting, independent films, both Dope and Call Me by Your Name. So Dope is interesting. Dope. It did not, for whatever reason, we missed the submission to the Cannes Main Festival, and this is what we had talked about sidebars, meaning. Let's say you don't get into the main, who doesn't want to get into competition, and then, and get on the carpet. But there's Critics Week, and there's certain qualifiers. And this was Director's Fortnight, which is also known as Kanzan. And it's really, there's different categories, but it's new directors, first-time directors, young directors. Do you know the other? Anyway, and so with Dope, it was, the director, he's now a big director, but Pharrell was the producer on it and all that. But it just, my thing is that we screened it. It got reviewed. It's a great movie. But what I liked was that you don't see a lot of representation there. And I was like, can you imagine that old classic Cannes shot with this beautiful cast? And so that's what I really, and that was really to get awareness for the film and then get international awareness. But it wasn't in competition. It's a great movie. To me it was, what's the movie with Tom Cruise and Rebekah? It was like a modern day Risky Business, and it was a smart movie, and it launched, A$AP Rocky and Shamik Moore, who is a star. I don't know why he's not a bigger star now, but I mean, it was just a fantastic opportunity to bring awareness to a really, really well done film. And that was what you're seeing right there, that photo shoot, that was it. There was a screening and that was it. And by the way, it was, sometimes people tell you with film festivals, and you can speak to this, is, only go if it's the beginning. Nobody stays late. If you want press, don't do it at the end. For me, the joke is, my husband and I, we always talk about it, there's riches in the niches. If no one's there, but you can find a couple of reporters and photographers, do it. A lot of people don't stay on this, end of certain festivals, like even South by. But that means you've got a playground to do promotion. Baby Driver, South by Southwest, we weren't in competition there. It was just, this is a weird film. At the time, it wasn't, it's a British director. It's got a weird name. I literally, they were like, Baby Driver, I'm like, what does that mean? It's got big stars and all this. So it was a chance again to promote, to get awareness, to kind of sculpt the international and domestic marketing strategy. And then the one on the left is another true independent film, and that was Brigsby Bear. Yes. And that was a film that Kyle and Dave, the SNL alumni, wrote. And it was a weird, quirky, odd film. And it was one where it got bad reviews. It was an ugly baby. But it's quirky, and it was kind of, it would have done, genre film festivals. And so all I did was, I drove to Burbank, I picked up that suit, that bear suit, and the movie had no money. Even though I worked at a studio, like on these films, they're like, don't spend any money. I got to drive back in the carpool lane on the 110 because I put the bear in the suit. And then my husband right there in the back was in that suit, Brigsby Bear. It was a cheap made suit. There was no fan in it or everything, so he almost died of dehydration. But we walked around the festival, and that was Hollywood Reporter. We walked around the festival. I think it did Critics Week and it got terrible reviews. But it was one of those cases where, and the movie, it's okay. It's kind of quirky.
You also had Brigsby, you were walking around, and you created a lot of
and so it just got awareness.
But you created a lot of content.
Yeah.
Too.
So, and it was a Sony Classics film, and it got a lot of awareness, and my husband walking around all over Cannes got a lot of attention. So my point is that, and one other trick I was going to say, as a promotional platform, let's say your movie doesn't get in, but you just want awareness, you can pull a stunt there. If it's a sci-fi film, just use it. I know, in fact, one trick that studios are using now, especially for Cannes and maybe Toronto, is, let's say the festival starts on a Wednesday, they show up on a Monday because press and everybody's there early and they have nothing to do, and then you just do a stunt. And then people write about the stunt because there's nothing to do, even though the festivals don't like it, but just do it. It doesn't matter. Like, just show up early and, use it as a platform. So.
Nice. You say, like, the sidebars is a week.
It kicks in. Yeah.
Does it kick in?
Yeah,
Oh, yes, it does kick in. Wow. The sidebars is great technology. As you were saying, is that a lot of festivals do have different sections of their program. So, for example, Berlinale Film Festival, it's not just the the main competition, there's other sidebars, if you want to use that term as well. For example, if your film is experimental, you're going to make a mistake by submitting to like the main competition. You need to submit to the forum, because forum is experimental and avant-garde. We actually just had today a selection come in for a South African feature film of mine, which is a kids movie, and we sent it to Talent Black Nights, which got into, but we sent it to the right category, which was the Just Youth program for kids. And that's what it's screening, because it's the most appropriate sidebar for it. So it is really important that with categories, and this applies to Film Freeway and all of the platforms you submit your film to, you do submit to the right sidebar. I like that, category. Because, for example, one of my people that work for me, Lauren, she said, I'll just put a submission in the cart for Dallas Film Festival, and then she can just check it for me. And I always double check. And I was like, that needs to go in the Texas feature category, because it's obviously from Texas, this film, not documentary feature, because there was a better chance of getting selected and winning. So it's really important that you do get really specific with your categories and know the film and which one is going to be suitable for.
And it can be, like, they're getting more creative with the sidebars of just first-time filmmaker, person with blue hair, different story, stories represented it, it's like, they're getting more and more creative, and you just go down the line. Like, if you're like, main competition, no, just keep kind of drilling down, and you'll see. I was going to say Black Nights Talent. There's some, one thing to consider on international film festivals as well is, even though they seem somewhat obscure, for international, and you may not think of your film as an international, and you don't want to pay for the translate, whatever, you don't want to pay. Just consider a lot of those festivals will bring out directors and filmmakers. They will not always, but they will fly them out there, and or one of your cast, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone of note. It just, if they feel there's a quality or some, I've seen them. They'll fly you out there. So consider international film festivals.
Just one side note. That is a good point, because another film I worked on that was from South Africa, it got selected for the Busan Film Festival in South Korea. They have a budget, and they did fly him out from South Africa, which is quite a long journey, and gave him 4 nights accommodation, because they have the budget and there's different kind of funding in place. Not all festivals can do that, but that one could.
I was just going to say, for the sidebar categories as well, if you think your film might be like eligible for different categories available, again, I always would email. If you're early enough in the submission process, I would email the festival and ask, because it also just opens a conversation that is going to get them excited. Because if you say, I think I'm eligible for this category and this one, do you have a recommendation of which one I should submit to? They'll maybe give you some insight into which one has fewer submissions.
I love that insight. Thank you on that one. Okay, so we're looking more at marketing and publicity right now. We've gone through some of it, which I love. But what else do we want to add in? Because unfortunately the light is going down, which is the universe saying it's almost time for us to finish. But was there anything else we wanted to add as far as what else do you need to make your project stand out? What other materials should you have ready? How much can you do yourself? That's always one of my big ones. How much can I do? And then when do I need to turn it over to the trailer editor or whoever else to really make it go, oh yes, that one. Do we have any other insights on that?
I think it's important to start talking to people like publicity agents, sales agents, and people who do SRT files, people who do DCPs. Early as possible to get the quotations, so then you can go back and say, right, well, when I need a publicist, when I've got that film, when I've got the film festival confirmed, film world premiere, it's a good time to hire you. Because doing it yourself would be not a good idea, because you need connections, and you need to know how to do it. They're all separate jobs that require different types of skill sets, need to be specialist skill sets. So doing it all yourself can be overly ambitious, but also exhausting and go in the wrong places. So it's important to hire the right people, professionals, when the time is right, but start talking early to then get them on the radar and the quotations, and who the best fit is for you to work with.
Okay, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time. We're going to be showing you our wonderful resources, and think of questions you have, get your hand raised, and I'll do my best to call on everybody at least once.
Thank you so much. This has been incredibly helpful, so thank you all.
Awesome.
Question, if they don't really read the cover letters and you are from, let's say you're submitting to a Chicago festival and you're from Chicago, or one of your actors, or there's some kind of connection, how do you get that information? And they don't ask in the application process, because I'm in the process of that now. How do you get that information to the festival programmers that you do have those kinds of connections?
Email them. So on the Film Freeway page of the website, there is going to be an email connection, and in your subject line, I put short film submission from Chicago-based filmmaker or something. Anything that's got the main hook, and then explain. Just sent my film. I think it'll be a great fit for you. It was shot in Chicago, where your festival takes place in the same city. And blah, blah, blah. It has a Chicago premiere available, something like that. Give them all that kind of information. Someone knows in the office, they can maybe put a flag on that and make a note on the submission when it comes in officially.
Okay, great, thank you.
I would also try and get press. Let's say if it's shot in Chicago and you have that little nugget, try to get a local story, include that in your submission.
Hi.
Go for it.
Sorry, this is a little specific, but I've actually submitted and got into a few festivals, and one of them, for a short, contacted us and were like, we actually think this would be better as an indie episodic, and reprogrammed us into the indie episodic. And I was wondering what you thought about that. Like, does that happen often? We thought it was weird. We did it, obviously, because it was a great festival, but I also wanted to know what you think of indie episodic programming as like an option, like TV pilot, submission stuff. Yeah.
Is it episodic, or is it a standalone short film?
It was a short film, and then
It's a short film.
they were like, could this be episodic? And we were like, yeah,
Okay.
It was supposed to be a proof of concept for the future, so it was a little open-ended.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense. Yes, because sometimes I've sent films of mine to festivals that we put in the category that would be the most obvious. Like we had one that was made New York category, and it was a documentary about Brooklyn, actually believe it or not, on your shirt. And they said, "Oh, could we put it not in documentary competition, but in the program which is about local New York filmmakers instead?" So we said, yes. So it's kind of like with the category thing on Film Freeway. Sometimes festivals make their own category in what they think the film is. So, we have a film which is a hybrid. It's like it's an animation, but it kind of looks like a live action. It's very, very like a head kind of technology. So people have put it in animation category, but some have put it in live action, even though it's not. So we have to explain during the Q&A that it's actually really an animation. It's like a hybrid. So they kind of make it up themselves. So if you're happy with that, if you feel it's not the right representation because it might get the wrong audience, then just from now on I'd say that we'd rather put it in dramatic short programming, something like that. Just make it clear to them if you feel happy with that, kind of where they've placed it, because it could be a different audience. Like it could be in that audience loads of TV commissioners, which might not be one of your goals, might not be the right fit.
We were really open, but we were really open to considering a lot of different things because we had actually already secured financing for the feature by the time we were in that festival, which was great.
Yeah.
But we also still were like, is this going to be even meaningful? Do people care that you're not in the main shorts fest? Will we be seen by, I guess, I'm curious because they seem like a new category that's popping up. We also got into Tribeca that way because they had a new category, so we just went full like, okay, we'll just be indie episodic just to see if we could get into more fests that way.
Yeah.
Part of it could be just from the programming side that the main category you submitted to, they already had their list and everyone said yes or whatever to that. So they liked your project and just needed to find a spot for it that could fit into a slot of something where they had an opening.
All right, I think we have time for one, maximum 2 more questions, y'all, so raise your hands high. Yeah. As Michael sat back down, I'm like, choose the person in the back.
Get some exercise.
Is there anybody outside this area?
Hello. I was just wondering, this is so much great information, but do you have any tips or resources of how, when you're gearing up to go to a festival, how to even keep track of all of this, saying I did this, I'm lined up for everything I need, and then not just submitting and realizing you forgot something completely afterwards?
So like a checklist.
Yeah, essentially.
That's in my ebook. So you just download it and then you'll have your checklist. So it's good to, have a checklist is important, but there's some things that might just pop up that you might not have thought of. So for example, we're just doing a submission for the Oscars actually, and they've said, we need a landscape poster. We're like, oh, we haven't got one of those. So it's always good to have, horizontal and vertical posters, just so you have them ready. But just make maybe a note in Word, my checklist. Also stuff that you just want to make sure that you have ready. Because a lot of festivals ask for the same thing, but sometimes just express it in a different way, or it's uploaded differently. Sometimes you have to upload it in different kind of platforms. It's the same, but sometimes they want a certain type of resolution for the images in the poster. So maybe have those ready, or have somebody on board quickly that can just do the right dimensions for you, so you have a good team around you. Would be good.
Okay, and final question. Our friend in the very front here, making Michael move again. I'm getting you your 10,000 steps.
I've been given the mic by my friend Ivan.
Well, forget it.
So, is there ever a world where you get a sales agent or distributor on board before you get into a festival as a super indie film to help you get into the festival, or is it mostly you get into festivals, get laurels, and then find a distributor and sales agent?
Both.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
One, it's amazing if you get distribution, before you have a sales agent. I think in the case of if you get it before, and it depends if it's international, and that's the market. The distributor determines which festivals they want to do, just for, again, that's the marketing or promotional stuff, or they're trying to get additional territories. If you get pre-sales and all that, so I guess both. It's fantastic if you get it. I know I went to the Marché this last year because I had a film that I thought would get into Cannes, didn't get into Cannes. It's in Morelia, but didn't get into Cannes. And then at the Marché, I had some other stuff I wanted to, was running around and sell. And it's the film market in Cannes. There were all kinds of stages. There were people who were trying to sell. There were people in competition, not really in competition, but in the sidebars. So it's any and all kinds. Your distributor, if they have it, they'll have a strategy. And but let's say you retain certain rights. So you're like, I'm selling off the United States or North America, but I'm going to another festival to sell off the rest of the rights, and I'm going to do it by entering a film festival and then getting awareness for it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that did. And I know you mentioned for Albatross, you had a distributor on before the premiere.
We had a sales agent before the premiere, so actually the screening that Michael came to, which we had in November, it doesn't matter what the year, but I did a screening and invited sales agents and some distributors, and that was kind of our premiere with that intention, which was before our first festival. Our first festival was in the following February, so a few months beforehand, and I had a sales agent at that time to do that. So in that case, I wasn't so worried about festivals in terms of, I applied, I wanted to get into all of the great festivals, like top tier, but I wasn't as worried because I knew that I already had a sales agent, so in some way I was covered to get the film seen by potential buyers.
Ladies and gentlemen, hey, thank you. You guys, thank you. Without you showing up, we're here just having a chat, amongst ourselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's making me sad that we have to stop because I just want to keep talking and finding out more information. I'm so lucky. Thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Rebekah. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Katya. Thank you, Second Home. Everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer, for moderating this as always so perfectly.
Thank you. All right, everybody stand up, say hello to the person next to you. Let's do some networking. We only got a few minutes. Make use of it. Speed networking, everybody. How are you?